Hi to everybody who's made it this far to the advanced section of the Endnote video series. This is video 9, and I'm going to talk here about some of the more advanced functions where you can format your references in Endnote and why these are important. Some of this might be more advanced than you need for your university assignments, for the reason that with your university assignments you tend to only hand them in once, and these functions where you go into Endnote and you actually edit the coding and the formatting instructions which are within the Endnote program are actually more useful for kind of after uni or for students who are doing extra work submitting to journals where you write an article and then it goes through hundreds of redraftings and hundreds of different changes that may kind of mean that you need to really make sure that your EndNote library formatting is 100% watertight with what the journal is asking for. But let's get into it because it's actually quite useful, and it also illustrates the concept of how EndNote works. And so let's go to these two references that I've been working with in the previous videos. We're going to look at this Alonso reference. Now, if you want to change the way that this reference is presented in your bibliographies, there are probably quite a few ways to do this, but the way that I'm going to show you is you have to go to Output Styles, and you have to actually edit the root style, which means edit the instructions that EndNote has for how to present your reference when you use it as a citation in your paper. So I'm going to click on Edit Vancouver here, and it's going to take me into the instructions that EndNote has for Vancouver referencing style. And just to remind you what we're working with, I've got this piece of work here, which is something which I had worked on for my PhD. And in the previous videos, we've been looking at how references can be automatically programmed by EndNote. So reference 1, Zuppinger, is up here as reference 1, and then it appears in the bibliography in this particular format. Now, I'm just going to update that because I actually changed it so that the title would appear without capitals, just to remind anybody who has forgotten from the previous video or just joined in this video how when you put in the EndNote formatting different instructions, it appears by clicking on Update Bibliography here. And we've got our style set to Vancouver. So when I go into EndNote and make my changes, we'll come back and update, and we'll see how this affects the real changes in the document. So I'm here in my edit reference style, and I'm here with Vancouver. And you can see that there are a lot of options for how you can change the way that EndNote presents your citations for Vancouver reference style. So within this, I want to go into the citations here, but actually what I want is the bibliography template. And you can see it's now going to display exactly how it presents each type of article in your bibliography. So we want to go down here to journal article, because journal article is the type of article which this Zuppinger reference that we're going to work with, that's what it is. It's a journal article. And you can see from your EndNote reference here, if I just change the windows and find Zuppinger, the reason it said no matching references found there was because I was on assignment 1, so it only searched in assignment 1. But if I go to all references and I search for Zuppinger, this is the reference. And you can see that this reference is going to tell me reference type here is a journal article. Now I can change that and tell it that I want it to think of it as a magazine article, or as a podcast, or whatever. But it's a journal article, so we're going to say use the journal article instructions. When we come here, we can see that we've got the instructions for whichever format we're telling EndNote this reference is. But for journal articles, this is the input instructions for how it's going to be presented. Now this turns into this. So you can see if we go back to the instructions, you've got author, full stop. Then you've got a mid-level dot here to signify that next is coming title. And then you've got full stop. And then you've got, I don't actually know what these lines are here, but they're part of the EndNote formatting. So what I do is I just don't mess with them. Then you've got the journal, and then you've got a full stop, and then you've got the year, and then you've got a semicolon, volume, brackets, issue if there is one, colon, pages, and that's going to mean that that's the formatting that goes in to generate this. Now, let's say that I want to change my references in the bibliography so that none of the journal articles show pages in the Vancouver style. I'm going to delete the colon. I'm going to delete the pages. And now I can save this. But actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the little cross and then save it as I close it. Save it as Vancouver copy. Because I actually don't want to overwrite the Vancouver style because I'll forget how to change it back to what it needs to be. So you can see here now, if I was to load this back in, Vancouver copy would appear here, but it hasn't refreshed, so it's not there. And I think I'm actually going to have to do that. So let's save the changes, yes. Let's get out of this and we'll just reopen my EndNote library from the file. And now with a bit of luck, we're going to have Vancouver copy will be available. As you can probably detect, I'm freestyling it a little bit here because I actually can't quite remember how to get EndNote to spot my changing style. Yeah, here it is, Vancouver copy. So I had to refresh it. And then I had to select new style, but let's say I'm going to choose this style, Vancouver copy, and then actually, yeah, and you can see that that's now the style that EndNote is using to display everything here in the reference and the preview. So if we get Zuppinger back up, because that's the one we want to work with, and we can now see journal article, and we can see that in the preview, it's taken away the page numbers here. The page number data will still be there. So you can see the data is still there unless you delete it. But the way that it's displayed is now without page numbers. So if I go here and you can see the page numbers are displayed as they were originally, but I now change my style to Vancouver copy. And actually, it should change the style to not display any journal articles with page numbers, including Zuppinger. So you can see Zuppinger has now removed the page numbers. But actually, if you were watching, it also did it for all of these other journal articles. If you go down, you'll see that I have some articles like this, which are not journal articles, and they did not change. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to edit online references, because that's important, because a lot of your references might not be from a journal article, but they might be from an online resource. And you need to make sure that those are all uniform and that those are all really tidy in your reference list. So I hope that that wasn't too convoluted, and I hope that it showed you how you go into EndNote and edit your style, and how you can save the style. So I saved Vancouver as a copy, and then applied my changes so that none of my references came up with page numbers. And I hope you can appreciate how that saves you a hell of a lot of time if you want to change the style to be exactly the same for every single reference once, and then let EndNote do it for all your references. Thank you very much. Next video will show how to do the same thing for an online reference.